Donald Trump, pandering to the libertarian vote, continues his assault on law enforcement, prosecutors, and the rule of law. He's just pardoned and released from a life sentence Ross Ulbricht, who operated the Silk Road website that distributed, illegally of course, cocaine, heroin, and other illicit drugs using a website, and was sentenced to life imprisonment. And his appeal was denied by the United States Supreme Court. But Donald Trump has decided to release him from prison and attack prosecutors and investigators along for the ride. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. What Donald Trump does matters and demonstrates to the American voters, while he's no longer fit for office already, how we use it against him during the midterm election. Remember the pardon of Ross Ulbricht, or as Donald Trump in his addled mind called him in a social media post, Ross Ulbright. It's Ross Ulbricht. He operated under the nom de guerre, if you will, of Dread Pirate Roberts. He was arrested in 2013 in San Francisco. He was convicted in 2015 of 7 counts of distributing narcotics and heroin and cocaine, violating racketeering laws and committing money laundering. He's in a he was in a maximum security prison in Arizona. His appeal was denied by the United States Supreme Court, but to Donald Trump, he's the poster child for a group of voters he was trying to get his hands on in the libertarian movement. He gave a speech to the libertarian movement while he was running for office, in which he said he was going to release Ross Ulbricht. I don't know why the Rand Pauls of the world and the libertarian movement has decided to make Ross Ulbricht their poster child. Rand Paul himself just completely sane-washed and gaslit everybody and said, oh, the poor guy was just convicted of running a website. He was a first-time offender. First-time offender running a website. He accepted Bitcoin in order to hide his trails. He sold hundreds of millions of dollars of illicit drugs and cocaine and heroin. Now, if he was black or brown and doing that from the trunk of a car in a neighborhood, this same group of people would be calling for them to be given the death penalty. But because he's a nice white kid, now 40, that the libertarians all rallied around and his mother all promoted, and Donald Trump saw it as a way to grab an extra sliver of votes in the electorate, he decided to release Ross Ulbricht. What did Ross Ulbricht do that deserved mercy and compassion by Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump, it fell on deaf ears when the Right Reverend Bud, during her national sermon in the National Cathedral, looked Donald Trump in the eye and said, show mercy to people, show mercy to the transgender community, to the LGBTQ plus community, to the immigrant community, even the undocumented that live in fear because of you. Show them mercy and grace. Instead, he shows mercy and grace to our heroin and cocaine distributor. This is MAGA, okay? Make them pay. Remember the name Ross Ulbricht at the time of the midterm elections. This demonstrates how morally bankrupt Donald Trump and MAGA are. They'll do anything for a buck. They'll do anything for a vote. They have no values. They have no morals. And they've taken our democracy like it was a Cybertruck, and they were doing a wrap on it to change its color. They've wrapped our democracy around with this dark, ominous shrink wrap, and the beating heart of democracy is underneath. It's here. We keep it alive on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Let me read to you what Donald Trump actually said in commuting the sentence, in pardoning Ross Ulbricht, in attacking law enforcement. You know, because he's the first felon in chief, because he was on the receiving end, having committed crimes of prosecutors and FBI, he holds them in low regard. He's busy right now reassigning Department of Justice officials who had top jobs to force them to quit effectively. The person who was in charge of counterintelligence and terrorism that was against him in the Mar-a-Lago case, he's now been reassigned, that particular lawyer, to go be in charge of the Sanctuary City project, where the Department of Justice is going to prosecute sanctuary cities and Democratic mayors. You think he's going to stand for that reassignment? No, he's going to quit. That was the purpose. It was great seeing my mother-in-law from abroad over the holidays and have her visit with our baby daughter. But it also reminded me that she's getting older and that she doesn't have access to affordable hearing aids in her own country. Millions of adults every year over the age of 65 start to lose their hearing. If you or your parent are one of them, you are not alone. This podcast is sponsored by MD Hearing. MD Hearing makes high-quality, easy-to-use, rechargeable hearing aids with exceptional sound quality that are personalized to your hearing profile and cost a fraction of what typical hearing aids cost. MD Hearing's Neo model costs over 90% less than clinic hearing aids. The Neo fits inside your ear, so no one will even know it's there. Plus, MD Hearing just launched the Neo XS, MD Hearing's smallest hearing aid ever. MD Hearing recently cut their price in half. That means you can get high-quality, rechargeable digital hearing aids for only $297 a pair. Since we gave my mother-in-law MD Hearing aids on her last visit, her life is so much brighter and better, and now she can actually hear my baby daughter's first cooing and almost words, which are coming close to babushka. MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. He made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone could afford. MD Hearing has sold over 2 million hearing aids, and they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee. So you can buy with confidence. Still on the fence about MD Hearing? They were just selected to be the hearing aid supplier for top Medicare Advantage plans, so they are a brand you can trust. Get the high-quality, affordable hearing aids you deserve with MD Hearing. Go to shopmdhearing.com and use promo code LegalAF to get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. Plus, they're adding a free extra charging case, a $100 value just for listeners of Legal AF. That's shopmdhearing.com and use our promo code LegalAF and get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. So here's how Donald Trump thinks about law enforcement, how he thinks about the FBI, how he thinks about the Department of Justice and law and order. I thought MAGA was the law and order party. Here's what he said in his announcement, Donald Trump, about pardoning Ulbricht. The scum. That's you, law enforcement. That's you, investigators. That's you, FBI. That's you, prosecutors. The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who are involved in the modern-day weaponization of government against me. First of all, I'm not sure that's true. I mean, there's a big gap in time. But in any event, he was given 2 life sentences plus 40 years. Ridiculous. This is what the lawyer for Ross Ulbricht had to say. Ross Ulbricht and his family are deeply and eternally grateful to President Trump for his extraordinary act of grace. Yeah, that's something that the Right Reverend Bund was seeking from Donald Trump, from those that he was punching down on, in granting Ross a full and unconditional pardon after enduring a decade of incarceration, because he was a heroin and coke distributor on the internet, on the dark web. Does anybody out there in MAGA world think it's appropriate to let a drug dealer out of prison? One that even the Supreme Court was like, nah, you're good. Stay in maximum security in Arizona. So I want to bring attention to this because you got Donald Trump in a 24-hour period crapping all over law enforcement. The very same law enforcement and first responders that supported Donald Trump against the Democrats and Kamala Harris, right? The Fraternal Order of Police and all these other organizations, and all Donald Trump has done ever since he took office is crap all over them and stole their valor. 1,600 criminals released from jails who attacked the cradle of our democracy, while Donald Trump sat in dereliction of duty in his dining room watching the Capitol burn. Many of them, dozens of them, having beaten, maimed, brained, tried to kill law enforcement, 150 law enforcement injured. They used everything they could get their hands on, and they brought with them, from guns to incendiary devices, to flagpoles, to Trump flags, to furniture, to baseball bats, to 2x4s, to bear spray. These people are now out and celebrated as Jan 6 hostages. Shame on Donald Trump. Shame on MAGA. You're not the party of law and order in this country. You're the party of completely undermining the valor of the men and women and others that serve in our law enforcement and first responder community. Prosecutors are scum because they did their job, because they shut down a notorious pirate, Dread Pirate Roberts, who made millions and millions and millions of dollars in Bitcoin, selling heroin and coke to who knows who. Like I said before, if he was black or brown and he was doing it from the back of a car in a neighborhood, they'd be calling to hang him. But because what? Because he's a white guy? Because Rand Paul thinks he's a I don't understand how that's a libertarian ideal, by the way. It would be different. When I first read about the Silk Road website, I thought, back in the day, oh, maybe he's selling like gray market medical prescriptions. Like drugs that are cheaper to get in Canada than in America, that kind of thing. Like I can get my heart medication in Canada for $1 a pill, and here it's $5,000 a pill. I was like, oh, that's not what he was doing. He wasn't selling legitimate medicine in a gray market like a broker. He was selling coke. He was selling heroin. He was selling crack. He was selling other illicit drugs and taking Bitcoin in return. Such a large enterprise that the federal sentencing guidelines sent him away for life plus 40 years. That's how the sentencing guidelines work. We're not talking about, the black and brown community that was selling, 5 grams of crack and were being sentenced to the same as the white guy next to him who had 500 grams of white powder of cocaine. We're talking about this guy making tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Where'd the money go? Where'd the money go? And how he became the poster child of the libertarian community. How is that a libertarian ideal? To sell drugs, coke and heroin. Is that the party now? I thought they were against legalizing marijuana. I thought they were against the cannabis industry on a federal. Cannabis companies can't even keep their money in federally chartered banks because it's an illegal under federal law, a controlled substance. So look, in any event, this is a demonstration of the hollowing out and the bankrupt values of the Republican Party, plain and simple. I'll continue to follow it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. Join us on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Help us to our march to 500,000 before the midterms. That's our goal. I'm sorry, midterms. Where am I? 500,000 before our half birthday. Sorry, 2 more months. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.